Welcome back to the Pittsburgh Sports Cast, where two college students discuss all things Pittsburgh sports all year round. I'm Ryan,
And I'm Chris.
and today we will be discussing a couple of things. First off, the Penguins' unfortunate 3-2 overtime loss in game one of their qualifying round, and the Pirates' unfortunate three-game sweep at the hands of the Chicago Cubs at Wrigley. An all-around bad weekend for Pittsburgh sports as we kick into episode number 15, I believe it is, of this Pittsburgh sports cast. So I guess we might as well get it kicked off with some hockey. Of course, the Penguins of falling in overtime, unfortunately, just I don't know, man. It was just really frustrating. We had so many power play chances, and we were only able to convert on one of them. And that was with our second power play unit. Um, but yeah, Chris, I'll ask your thoughts first, then I'll offer mine.
Um, I'm not gonna lie, I have a lot of thoughts here. So you're just gotta bear with me. I'm gonna hope this is coherent. Um, First, I want to give credit to Montreal. Um, I think oftentimes when a big favorite loses, whether that's a game, a series, no matter what sport, everyone goes and blames the favorite for screwing up, and no one ever gives credit to the underdog for winning. So I just want to give, as a diehard Penguin fan, give some credit to Montreal for the game they played. When it comes to initial thoughts after having a night to sleep on it, um, Montreal, I okay, I'll say this. I thought the first 5 minutes of the first period, played an integral part in the outcome of this game. Because I thought for the first 5 minutes, Montreal looked afraid. Montreal looked like a 24 seed going against a dynasty in the Pittsburgh Penguins, who had been there and done that. And I thought they looked afraid, and I really think their shots showed it. You know, it was 10-1 after 5 minutes for the Penguins. But why I think it was so key is that Price stoned them 10 times. And I think that gave Montreal confidence that, hey, they had Price. It looked like Price was going to perform well. And I think that just gave them an extra boost of confidence. I think Montreal's game plan really mirrored a soccer game plan. And let me break that down a little bit for I know soccer isn't the biggest thing in Pittsburgh. If there's a heavy favorite in a soccer match, so a favorite and an underdog, what the underdog will do a lot of times is they'll put 11 behind the ball and let the big favorite have the ball and more or less say, break us down. Do you have the quality and the patience to break us down? And if you make a mistake, if you turn the ball over in a dangerous area, we'll hit you on the counter. And we'll be fully content to win this game 1-0. And that is a popular soccer strategy when there's a heavy underdog. And Montreal did the same thing. Montreal said, we're more or less going to sit 5 dudes behind the puck. We're going to put 5 dudes between the neutral zone and our defensive zone. And we're going to give the Pittsburgh Penguins the possession of the puck. And they're going to get shots. Because even in the soccer strategy, a lot of times you can get some shots. But they're not quality opportunities a lot of times. And since Montreal has Price, all they're saying is, hey, we're going to sit back. We're not going to try to play a speed game. Because the Montreal Canadiens, throughout the majority of the season, they like to play fast. They like to play up and down. But they know they don't have the speed, nor do they have the talent level to go up and down against the Penguins. It's not going to work. So they sat back, and they said, we're going to give you possession. You're going to have the shot advantage, which they did the entire game. And if we break down, we're going to rely on Carey Price, hoping he's in form to bail us out. And we're going to hit you on the counter if you make a mistake. And we were texting during the game, and you said something that I think proved their strategy. You said there are two regular season. Yes, they only scored twice in the regular season. Their two regulation goals were against the run of play. If you look back at the game, Montreal didn't have a lot of sustained pressure in our zone. They didn't have a lot of sustained shots, and they didn't come in waves a lot. What they did is they sat back, let the Penguins do something stupid, and hit you on a counter, and hit you on take a rush shot. Right, 3-on-2, 2-on-1. Take one of those shots. Maybe get a rebound, throw it back to the point. Oh, Penguins are out because there's a rush. They're not quite in defensive position. Take a shot from the point when there's a lot of people in traffic and there's some confusion on the Penguins' end. Little fluke goal. 1-0. Right? It's all they did. Sat back, we turned it over, hit us on the rush, grabbed a rebound, our defense was confused, they threw it back to the point, and just threw the puck in front of the net. And they scored. Second goal, again, was the same thing. We had the possession, we were rolling, we turned it over, and Montreal hit us on a 2-on-1. Where it's the same thing, right? Put 11 behind the ball, you turn it over, we're going to hit you on the counter. Montreal, second goal, hit us on the counter. It was a 2-on-1, beautiful smash shot over Murray's shoulder. Nothing he could do. He came out, he did everything he could. That was just a beautiful shot. And then our goals, I thought, again, we had the possession, and I think you give a lot of credit to Carey Price, because I thought he played phenomenal. I thought the Penguins tried to be a little too fancy, because when you have a goalie who's in that type of zone, you need traffic in front of the net, right? Because if you look at the two goals we scored, Crosby scored it off of Carey Price himself, right? Crosby was practically behind the net, Price a little bit out of position, Crosby just throws it off his back, goal. Brian Rust goal, again, on the power play, which we'll definitely get into later. It was a dirty goal. You had men in front. Brian Rust is kind of causing chaos. Patrick Hornquist causing chaos. The Montreal Canadiens defense didn't really know, because Patrick Hornquist is such a menace in the net. Both of them go to him. And you just leave Brian Rust with a scrum. Price is trying to fight through traffic, and you get the second goal. Right, so both goals were quote-unquote ugly. There were men in front. And that's why you have to beat a goaltender like Carey Price. I thought especially towards the third period in overtime, we were a little too fancy. Tried to get, that perfect play. And sometimes when you're facing just a hot goalie, you just got to muck it up. And again, in the overtime goal, again, it's like any underdog story, right? Let's put it into different, maybe you don't like soccer and you have no idea what I'm talking about. Well, let's put it into football. And then NFL or college. When there's a heavy underdog, what does everyone say? Let's see if you can get it to the fourth. Let's see if it's a close game in the fourth quarter. Right? Don't get blown out. Get it within a score or two, or maybe even have the lead in the fourth, because then when you're the underdog, there is no pressure. You're not supposed to be there. When Pitt beat Clemson, when Clemson was number 1, everyone and their mother thought Pitt was going to get blown out. So when Pitt had the lead and was competitive in the fourth quarter, guess what all the pressure was on? It was on Clemson. It was on Deshaun Watson. It was on the number 1 team in the country at home. Right? Pitt was playing with house money. Pitt wasn't supposed to be in the game. Pitt was supposed to lose 50-0. Right? Pitt has the lead. The pressure shifts to Clemson. Deshaun Watson makes a mistake. Pick six, or almost a pick six in the end zone. Connor scores. Game gets flipped on its head. And every Pitt fan knows what happens. Right? Pressure was on Clemson. It was a close game in the fourth. And they collapsed. And same thing in hockey, right? It's in overtime. Montreal's playing with house money. In reality, Montreal's not supposed to be here. It's only because COVID-19 is the only reason they're in this situation. And they got it to overtime, and they took their chances. Again, in overtime, I didn't think Montreal was threatening a lot. Like, when Montreal had the puck in our own zone, I wasn't afraid they were going to score. They didn't have any quality goal-scoring chances in a lot of ways. They had the penalty shot, but that was a joke. And again, not a clear-cut opportunities for either team, really, in overtime. But Montreal gets the one, and that's all they need. Again, it was off the rush. It was again.
Yep.
Turnover in the neutral zone. You have a 3-on-2. Back pass to an open man who's coming through the slot. Murray has no chance, right? So I think, and then we'll get into the power play later, which I'm ticked off about. But I think those are for like my initial thoughts. What about you?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I think that we were both right. The Penguins did look like the better team, but
Mm-hmm.
fortunately for Montreal, they weren't trying to be the better team. They weren't trying to, like you said, outskate or outplay technicality wise the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Penguins were playing right into their hands. The Canadiens essentially, bunkered down and, defended like crazy. And when you have a hot goalie like Carey Price, you know, ever since March and April when we knew this was what was going to happen, I I was that was my number one concern was Carey Price, you know, and like you said, I think that the performance he put up in the first 5 minutes, which I think um, was exactly what I was looking for. I was looking for the Penguins not to shy away at all, just not to take anything for granted, just go right after them, punch them in the mouth. And they threw several jabs and hooks, but unfortunately, none of them landed proverbially. Um, and I'm just hoping that we can figure them out. Otherwise, we're going to get Halak 2010 flashbacks here. But yeah, like we said, those two goals coming against the run of play. First goal was a bit lucky. Second goal on a crucial odd man rush, as was the OT goal. Definitely disappointed that we couldn't make anything out of our chances. You know, it you know, uh, it was kind of like I know we're trying to keep the other sport references to a minimum, but it's kind of like watching a Chelsea game. You know, if you listen to our other podcast, Miscellaneous Sports Mondays, which you can catch on any podcasting platform whatsoever, we talk about sports not in Pittsburgh, so make sure to check us out. But we talk about them and we mention about how they often have more of the possession than the other team almost every game. But it's a matter of not just having the most possession, what you do with that possession. And I feel that the Penguins, it wasn't like, I mean, Carey Price was solid, man, but it wasn't like he was making crazy, insane saves. Like, that's why I feel like Halak 2010 isn't really the valid comparison, even though I just made it. Um, but he wasn't making the most insane saves. I feel like the Penguins weren't. I mean, sure, he had to make some saves, but like I said, they weren't like artist saves to make. I feel like if you're the Penguins, you should be disappointed with the the quality shots on net. Like I said, especially with Carey Price because he can make those insane saves if we force him to. But no matter what goalie you are, you can only make so many headstanding plays, and I think we need to. I think we definitely need to take better chances, not necessarily more chances. I think we should go. I mean, obviously, quality over quantity. I think because, like I said, we had a ton of chances, but I don't feel that they were the best.
I also think because if you go back to the first 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, what before Montreal scored, I think every Penguin fan was happy with what they saw. I think when it came to the domination, it looked like boys versus men in a lot of ways. Like I said, Montreal looked scared. Um, but Price stood tall for those 10 shots, and yeah, I think that just gives Montreal when you're playing that defensive brand of hockey, which in reality is what they have to do. Knowing those first 10 saves went the way they did, I think it gave them so much confidence that they could play that style. Because if the Penguins score within the first 5-10 minutes, what does that put into Montreal's psyche? Right? Because they're like, oh, even if you play defensive, they're going to score, right? They are truly the better team, and so on and so forth. Um, I think I was really impressed with from Montreal that Nick Suzuki, I think his name is. Um, he I thought he played an excellent hockey game. I know he got one of the goals for Montreal, and I thought he even defensively for a guy who's touted for his offense. I thought defensively he played really really well. And there's that other defenseman. What was his name? What's his name, Ryan?
So
He played with Petrie. That's all I know. He played with Petrie, and he played phenomenal because I constantly heard his name,
hmm,
and I thought he played really well as well. Any
yes,
Canadians stand out to you?
what?
I said, any Canadians stand out to you?
Yeah, I definitely think the defense obviously was a real big standout. Uh, Carey Price, like you said, withstood those first 10 shots. And I really think that when you go all out the way the Penguins did in the first period, or in the first few minutes of the first period, and you come up empty-handed and you're giving it everything you have. I don't want to say physically fatigued because it's the first period, but I think mentally you kind of get frustrated a bit, and I think that kind of sort of contributed to those two goals. Um, I think the Penguins were visibly frustrated that they weren't being able to put away the chances against the worst team in the playoffs, and they had a bit of a lapse in concentration, or well, not the first goal. The first goal was a bit lucky, but still was things we could have done better. But definitely think that kind of played a part in that. But yeah, they executed their game plan perfectly, and the Penguins did what they wanted, but couldn't exactly execute the best. We'll talk about all the squandered chances later.
Before we
But
get to squandered chances, let's try to put at least some type of positive spin on it. Um, on the game, even though it's a loss. Try to preach some positivity here. What are some positives that you took out of the game?
well, I think Sid looked pretty well. Obviously, got on the score sheet. I was even though he played well in the exhibition game, I was still kind of a bit worried. I was a bit kind of skeptical that, with his injury concerns, especially because there was a point in the first period where he was slow to get up a bit. I think we were all holding our breath there, and he ended up okay. But I'm glad that he A was able to look like his old self, and B was able to stay healthy, because we've known the history of injury problems for Sid. How often have we seen games where, or he's seen stints where he returns just for one or two games and then gets hurt long term again. So really, that's a positive I think I saw. Also, my dad and I were kind of talking about this when we were watching the game. The first power play unit we'll get to later, but I really like the second power play unit with Rusty, Sherry, and McCann. I think that they were looking more dangerous than even the first unit. Nothing. I mean, I know I just talked Sid up a bit, but uh, going back to that second power play unit, I think them as a whole were just working greater than the sum of their parts and making things happen. They scored our only power play goal, so Sid's back and healthy, and the second power play unit is um, underrated.
A couple positives for me. John Marino. John Marino, I don't think got beat a single time last night. He played phenomenal. There's a guy on Twitter. I think his name's Jesse Marshall. I think he's a beat writer for some team. Um, and he even said like he wasn't beat the entire night, And I remember watching the game, and he made good puck decisions. I thought like one-on-one defensing. That's a word. A one-on-one defending. I thought was excellent from him. And Brian Dumoulin again. Where would this team be without Brian Dumoulin? I mean, talk about like an elite, this defensive defenseman who's underrated because he doesn't put up the offensive numbers, but man, can he play defense? I thought he played really well too. Um, Again, I think Sidney Crosby, as you kind of pointed out, played well as well. I think those were the positives, and Brown Ross obviously as well. The fourth line I thought looked good too. The fourth line I thought was constantly in their Montreal's end creating chances with Bluger, Tanev, and Czar. So the fourth line I thought came through.
Yeah, I definitely think that the Penguins are definitely deeper than the Canadiens, so that's probably why they look so good on the fourth line, especially considering uh our fourth pretty much almost because of all the injuries and whatnot, almost everyone on the Penguins has almost every forward has experience being in the top six pretty much
Yeah,
because of all the so they have experience, being the guys that are going against, the other team's top dogs and, having that greater ice time. So, and now that we have most of our starting forwards back, they're able to excel on the fourth line. Like I said, after getting experience playing against the big boys, now they can beat up on the other team's fourth line finally. And not only any other team's fourth line, but Montreal's fourth line. So one of the few advantages of having the injury play season that the Penguins did have.
agreed. What were some negatives for you?
Well, uh, I dare go into the power play? That deserves a segment on its own. Um,
So I guess what we'll do is go do negatives aside from the power play, and then after we go through the negatives, then we'll go on the entire segment of the Pittsburgh Penguin power play or lack thereof.
oh boy, oh boy, oh boy! I feel a rant coming on already, but we can't go there yet. I'm gonna go. If I'd probably have to go with just. I've already said it already, but um, lack of quality chances. Like I said, we have plenty of chances, specifically in the first few minutes, but really all throughout the game, we had much more chances. But again, quality, not quality over quantity, because it's important that you have a ton of chances. But when all of your chances are not taken as well as they could have been, it seemed like how many times we have missed opportunities and couldn't, take those chances well. Uh, like I said, Carey Price made a bunch of saves, but there was rarely a point where I looked at Carey Price and was like, "Wow, how did that stay out?" or something like that. But I think that, like I said, Carey Price can't stand on his head all game. We need to demand more from Carey Price in terms of shots on goal, and we need to, I think, do better in that regard. Um, you notice the few chances that Montreal have, they were able to capitalize on them in ways that the Penguins couldn't. Um, Obviously, you'd like to get back and not have those odd man rushes. You know, we gave up that penalty shot in an OT. Obviously, we got one too, but I thought that was a facepalm moment. Luckily, at the time, the shot was another facepalm moment, but for them, yeah, I think, like I said, more quality with the final shot. Like you said, don't look like you said earlier. Don't look too flashy, or don't try to be too flashy. Any goal is a goal. A goal's a goal. Doesn't matter how you get it, whether it's a lucky bounce or a bank shot like Sid did again. You know, we all that matters is that we win 3 out of 5. I mean, it would be nice to look good doing it, but that should be the last of our concerns.
Agreed. A negative for me, I think was Gino. I thought Gino was nowhere to be found. I don't think he got into the game at all. Um, and same with Gensel. Like Gensel doesn't have a lot of quality chances from what I recall. I could be wrong. Maybe I missed a couple sometime, even though I watched the entire game.
Yeah, I don't really remember any good Gensel chances.
Nah. I thought going back to like the penalty shot. Let's be real. Connor Sherry is probably not the man you want taking that penalty shot.
Well, we had no choice,
But
unfortunately.
that's what I'm saying. But I mean, if you had to, pick someone to take a penalty shot, I don't think it's Connor Sherry.
Yeah,
Uh,
minor
that's
digression. I wish it could be like soccer and anyone could take the penalty shot.
yeah,
But go
right.
back.
Agreed.
Go back.
Specifically,
Sorry about that.
all good. No, no, I agree with you. Um, but yeah, so I think Gino just and Letang, man, he just turns the puck over so much. It's very, very frustrating. Because a
Yeah.
lot of his, since he's a defenseman especially, a lot of his turnovers lead to like 2-on-1s and stuff, which is no bueno anytime. Never want to have a 2-on-1 against you.
Yeah, I definitely think that Gino could have been pressed more. He hasn't really looked like his old self. From what we've seen of him, obviously, we saw the Flyers game and that terrible giveaway that he had there, and didn't really didn't really impress like a top 5 player in the world would typically perform. Uh, Gensel, not sure what to think of him. Obviously, I wish he could have done better, but reasonably, what can you expect from a guy who's just coming back from what he thought was going to be a season-ending injury? You know, he wasn't even thinking about, you know, playing hockey in August 5, 6 months ago. Granted, nobody was, but it's substantially different from someone who was healthy at that point. Um, but yeah, obviously, you wish you could have done better, but I don't know how what to expect of a guy just coming off a 6 month injury the way Gensel did.
That's a good point, but yeah, I mean it's a good point. But at the end of the day, at least from what we saw in game one, it looks like we're gonna need him. He may not have time to have a nice little warm up series.
Yeah, unfortunately, when the Canadiens uh, execute their game plan the way they did, you won't this won't be a warm up series by any stretch.
No,
No,
no.
definitely we we have to win tomorrow or today, depending on when you are listening. Uh, or else it's time to hit the panic button, and I really don't want to do that in round 0.
It's pen button round 0. Not good. Not good.
Yeah.
Okay, I know you got some thoughts. Hit me up on the power play.
What is it? 1 for 7? We have 7 power plays. Is that right? Or no?
Yeah, that is correct.
Uh, including a nearly full 5-on-3 that we didn't really look too promising on.
I forgot about that. Yeah, you're right. I had it for like a minute and 29
I
seconds
mean,
or
like I
something.
said, It was the one goal we scored was by our second power play unit, which looked more dangerous than the first. Like I said, I was just talking sit up earlier, but I really would have liked to have seen more of him when we had a man advantage. It looked like it reminded me of Dan Bylsma era Pittsburgh Penguins. You know, how many times during that time period did we see the Penguins completely forget how to play offensive hockey on the power play? But going back to 2020, it was not a positive sight. You can't afford to, if you're the top power play line, you can't afford to come up empty handed on 7 different power plays, one of which was a 5-on-3 in a playoff game. You have to be able to convert with a man advantage. They were gifting us all of those opportunities, all of those power play chances. And, like I said, it didn't look, not only like, it wasn't even like it, they were going crazy, whether it would be Price or something else. It just didn't look there.
I think what's frustrating for me, um, what's frustrating for me, is how much talent this team has on the power play. Right? You have Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang, here I'll get to later, Jake Gensel, Patrick Hornqvist sometimes. Um, all this talent. And man, they don't shoot the puck. The entries is what killed me. They could not enter the zone to save their soul. I mean, if the Canadiens either won the face-off or cleared the puck, it felt like it took 30 to 40 seconds for them to even get in the zone, let alone get anything developed. Um, so that was frustrating, I thought. And even when they were in the zone, they weren't shooting the puck, they were just passing the puck.
Yep. That's why I said it reminded me of Bylsma era, because it looked exactly like a 2013, 2012 Dan Bylsma style power play, passing it around the point, passing it around the perimeter, not taking any chances at all.
Right, exactly. And and like I said, going back to kind of what we talked about earlier with Price, you need to shoot the puck, especially when you have an extra dude to throw in the middle, or at least in front of him. And they just didn't do that. And Chris Letang, Chris Letang. He has offensive ability, no doubt. But man, on that power play sometimes, I just wonder if we should just put Justin Schultz on it. Now, Justin Schultz has less offensive talent than Chris Letang. Um, but he's better defensively, and maybe won't turn the puck over for back-to-back 2-on-1s. You know, um, yeah, the 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 thing with the power play too is it never looked threatening. Never was there like sustained pressure where I thought, okay, they look like they're gonna score. They're just about to score. There wasn't like a lot of that. It wasn't until, like you said, the second power play unit took over when we finally decided it was a good time to do something.
It was just, it was very frustrating to watch. I always used to make the joke back in the Bosma days when we'd get a power play, oh, decline the penalty. We don't want to go up because we look so much more dangerous on the even strength than on the power play. And I think that sentiment rings true again. Like, it almost looked like it's so, it's just so frustrating because, like, we didn't have many chances where it's like, we should have scored here or we should have scored there, but our best chances came at even strength in a game where we were on the power play 7 times.
And the thing is, There were power plays where Montreal looked like the better team. Like Montreal was on the power play. Just
Very
never.
true. Very true.
Yeah, because I forgot what power play number it was, but I remember looking to my dad and saying, "Are we in the power play or is Montreal on the power play?" I'm unsure because Montreal just looked that good and we looked that bad.
Uh,
Game
yeah,
two is a must win though. Must win.
definitely. We said that off the air. It has to be. You know, you don't want to push the panic button just yet because it's obviously one game. We still have hopefully we only have three more to go, meaning three wins for us. But definitely a must-win game. You know, that's the thing about the best of five. You go one game down, all of a sudden game two is looking very important. You know, because 2-0 down, how many times have we seen teams come back from 2-0 down at a best of seven? But in a best of five, coming back from 2-0 down exponentially harder because you got to win three straight. You have to you can't have any lapses like the Penguins did. You can't afford to make those mistakes that the Penguins did. You can't afford to squander the chances the Penguins did. You can't afford to attempt to outclass anyone, even if you have the talent to do so. You have to just grit. You have to just score by any means necessary. You had to throw the puck at the net if you're on the power play more often, and you have to execute and you have to limit the counter potential.
Agreed.
And
And
the
I think
Penguins did
go
virtually
ahead.
none of
No, that's very true. I think a huge key for game two is have to score first. You have to score first, and you have to bring them out of their shell. You have to. Just like when the soccer team plays at 11 behind the ball, the big favorite has to score first to force the team that's putting 11 behind the ball to come out and try to score.
that.
Right?
Exactly.
Then you can get that, up and down game going. That was really not up and down in soccer. But from a hockey perspective, that's what you have to do. You have to score first and then make Montreal come out. Make Montreal try to play up and down. So where you're going to have the advantage with the talent and superstars you have. When
Yeah,
you play very defensive teams, you have to score first. Have to. It's a must.
yeah, I mean, we can't let that uh we can't let that to keep borrowing stuff from other sports. We can't let the park the bus strategy work against us the way that it did for Montreal.
Right.
You know, we can't let them, park that bus in front of the goal and and hit us on the counter the way that they did. We have we have to even that being said, we have to execute um in the first 10 minutes. If we come out and have the first 10 minutes the same way we had the first 10 minutes yesterday, I think that that would be a positive. But the difference is we have to find the back of the net at least once in the first 10 minutes. If we score first, their entire game plan, their entire MO is goes to shambles
Right.
until they score a tying goal.
Right, because again, if we score within the first 10 minutes, go up one, or whenever you get the first goal, assuming the Penguins get the first goal, then who cares if Montreal's just back? Because they need to score. I'll fully be content to win 3 games, 1-0. That's what it takes to get
Yeah, who
through to the
cares?
playoffs. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what we have to do. We have to do. You know. So, so give me a couple keys for game two for you.
Well, one I already mentioned, that was keep the same mentality going into it that you did in game one. Same kind of attitude, go right at them, no shying away, you know, let them know that you are the better team, but not in the flashy way, in the dominant way. Um, but like I said, capitalize on at least one of those chances. Put them in, you know, put better chances on net. Make Carey Price have to stand on his head to keep them in it. You know, we have, and we obviously mentioned score first, and that will lead us to scoring first. And number two, I guess we have to go back to the power play and be more aggressive on the power play and be sharper on the power play. Like you said, it was getting to a point where we were being dominated with a man advantage. We can't afford that with the talent that we have. We have to be able to take it to them. And I've seen the way we've done it in the regular season against far better teams. We have to be able to capitalize whenever we get a man advantage, especially because this is another way you can tell we were the better team. They took those 7 penalties.
Yeah.
We the ref just doesn't send people in the box for no reason unless it's like Vegas and San Jose, but we won't get into that. But yeah, I mean, they took 7 penalties against us, so that kind of proves, how they were kind of defending by all means. But so yeah, keep the same mentality going into it as you did in game 1. But better chances, better quality chances while keeping that same mentality and sharper on the power play. I know those are very obvious keys to the game, but they still ring true.
I think a couple keys for me, I would agree special teams is going to be key. I think Gino and Gensel have to play better. Especially with kind of the style Montreal is playing. They need to play better. I think that's key. And the third key is Murray. Goaltending is going to be even more key with this defensive strategy Montreal's implementing. Right? If you allow a soft goal or a questionable goal, then you play right into Montreal's hands, right? So I think goaltending, getting solid goaltending and not letting a soft one in is going to be huge. Because, you let the soft one in, that kills everything. And then you can really hit the panic button.
Yeah. Do you change up the lines at all to try to look for some extra life? Or do you think we should keep them the way they are?
I keep them the way they are only because we were the better team.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I was just kind of getting your thoughts here.
Now, if Montreal dominated us, yeah, then you got to look to switch something up. But
Yeah,
since we were the better team, we outshot them, outplayed them. I think you keep the lines the same.
definitely. So, any final thoughts on the Penguins before we move on to baseball and the depressing world that is?
No, let's just go from bad to worse.
So I continue the 100% predictions record. I'm not sure whether to be happy about that or sad that we were swept by the Chicago Cubs in Chicago at Wrigley Field. Yeah, it was just not looking good. It's just very bland baseball, you
Dude,
know.
our offense is awful.
I know, and that's really when you have no hope because our pitching was already awful. Our offense was looking to be a possible bright spot, especially considering the one win we had against Milwaukee where we pulled out the 8-6 comeback and we were, hitting the ball all over the place. Even in some of the losses we had, we were looking good, and it was our pitching that let us down. And now it's just all gone. It's we can't pitch well except today. I will point out that we actually did have competence on the mound today. Everyone pretty much looked good. You can't expect very many major league bullpens to go 2 straight innings with a leadoff guy on second, proverbially, because it went into an 11th inning. So with the new extra inning rules, but you can't expect to go like 2 straight innings with the guy on second and nobody out and not give up any runs. Of course, the Cubs did because the Pirates' offense is terrible. But when you're facing a team like Chicago Cubs, you have to. They had to score in the top of the 10th. As soon as they didn't, even after Chicago squandered their chance in the bottom half, it was just not looking good. You know, Although I will say that I think we need to be better on the bases because in both extra innings, we had a guy thrown out at the plate.
Yes.
So I was really frustrated because there were less than 2 outs in both situations. So I would think that you just hold him at third. So I can't remember the name of our third base coach, but I think he needs to definitely sharpen up there.
Joey Cora?
No, I thought he left, unless he was one of the few people that didn't leave. I know Hurdle brought him on.
I
But
think it's
yeah,
Cora still.
yeah, it was very like that piggyback was looking good again. Braden
Well,
cool.
that I question that a little bit, only because Brault was perfect through 3 innings. Why not just roll with him?
Well, if you're looking at it, I would assume that Brawl never trains or practices or warms up his arm effectively enough to go more than 3 innings. Because he comes into every start knowing what is expected of him and knowing how many innings he has to pitch. And if even if he was perfect through 3 innings, I don't think that would be the best idea to tell your guy, hey, we're gonna keep you out there when he wasn't necessarily planning to pitch more than 3 innings, especially considering he's coming in the second time through the lineup. I feel that especially Brault has often struggled second time through, which is one of the reasons he is half of this piggyback. Um, yeah, I like obviously the selfish part of me was kind of pulling for Shelton and Marine to leave Brault out there, but knowing the Pirates, he would just end up getting hurt like everyone else, trying to overexert himself by going that extra inning. And we don't want another injury after we've already had so many.
Dude, it's happening to our pitchers too.
Yeah,
Like Mitch
Feliz,
Keller, Michael
Keller.
Feliz.
Yeah, who's even? We might have to split up the piggyback now because of we have another spot to fill in the rotation now. Because our only pitcher that was actually looking competent consistently
Is
is
now hurt.
now. Hmm.
Well, who came in when Keller got hurt? Because he looked really good.
Yes, he did.
I
I
forget
mean,
his name because well, we were watching hockey.
yeah, it was we have lots of channel surfing going on last night.
Hmm, interesting.
Yeah, but he did look half decent, definitely. Um, yeah, we lost what 4-2,
What
and
game?
I or no, we lost 4-3.
We
It
we
was.
lost 4-3.
Yeah, and again, I do believe that we gave up a run in like the 8th inning. We gave up a few runs. If we don't give those runs up, we gave up 2 runs in the 8th inning, right? If we don't
Yes.
give up those runs, we play bottom of the ninth. We're in the lead. So
Let's be real. Why can the Pirates only score in the 9th inning?
Oh, I don't know.
It only scored in the ninth, in game one and game two. It only scored in one inning this game.
Yeah, we scored. We hit a home run in the first of Kevin Newman, and then nothing happened after that. Another instance of frustrating Pirates baseball.
I just don't. And the other thing is, um, let me. There's no like. I'm not okay. If we're being brutally honest, I don't think either one of us expected the Pirates to compete for anything aside from the first round draft pick.
Oh yeah, of course.
But I wanted to see some development, right? I wanted to see Brian Reynolds develop. I wanted to see Kevin Newman develop. I wanted to see Mitch Keller develop. I wanted to see Adam Frazier develop. But I wanted to see some development, even if we were gonna finish awful, and not be in the playoffs and compete for the first round draft pick. But I think it's a stupid idea anyway. But that's a different point. Um, I wanted to see development, and I have seen a total of zero development. Brian Reynolds has not developed. Kevin Newman has not developed. Adam Frazier has not developed. Josh Bell doesn't look good. Miss Keller's now hurt. Chad Kuhl's now hurt.
Wait, what?
Bullpen.
Cool got
What?
hurt too. I didn't hear that.
What do you mean you didn't hear Kuhl got hurt?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Um, so let me think. Michael Feliz is now hurt. Um, it. I've seen no development. I've seen players get hurt. I've seen questionable managerial decisions. Um, cause why isn't Jose Osuna starting? When we can't score runs, he may be one of our most consistent hitters, and Derek Shelton refuses to start him. And why the hell is Cole Tucker in center field today?
Hmm. Sunday lineups, but man, he it just makes no sense. He's not playing it. Cole Tucker, if he's not playing his natural position of shortstop or second base, should not be in the lineup at all. Because the only time you ever move a player out of position is to keep their bat in the lineup. And Cole Tucker has no bat. He might as well just walk up to the plate with his bare hands.
Yeah, Cole Tucker has not developed to his bat quite yet. Which again doesn't make sense because he's getting consistent playing time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, might as well throw Gerard Dyson in there. Don't let him don't let an out of position guy don't let an out of position guy take his spot. I know it's a Sunday lineup, but you only got 60 games.
Right.
Like, and as for Osuna, with the DH, you have no excuse to keep his bat out of the lineup. Absolutely none.
Exactly.
He if even if we want to throw Josh Bell and his questionable arm at first base, we we still have to make this guy the DH. Like Colin Moran can play third if you want. Josh Bell can play first if you want. But Jose Osuna has to be the DH in that scenario. You can't, like I said, you can't afford to keep one of your only offensive contributors out of the lineup. He's
Dude,
pretty much the
God.
only bright spot out of this entire team.
Him and Colin Moran.
Yeah, Colin Moran's also excelled a bit too. I really like him. Can't keep him out of the lineup either. But then if you're gonna do that, then you either gotta put Osuna over there at first, or you gotta put Bell at first and make the other the DH. Heck, even put if you want playing somebody out of position, Osuna's played the outfield before. Throw him out there, not in center,
That's what
like in
I was
right or
saying.
left.
I said you could put if you really wanted to, you could put Brian Reynolds in center, keep Polanco in right, even though he's been atrocious. and that's an understatement, and put Jose Osuna in left, and you have Moran at third. You have Newman and Frazier at short and second. You have Bell at first, and then you have Stallings catching.
Definitely.
But he refuses to do any of that, and
Oh,
continually plays 4 men in the outfield, which just confuses me.
I've seen that before. That was just an extreme shift. Unfortunately,
It cost us
sometimes
the game.
yeah, because that ground ball that made its way through that would have been right at the second baseman had he been playing there.
Correct.
Then of course the yeah, and then of course we went with the 5-man infield today, but that was a different scenario that I fully support.
I don't mind a 5-man infield.
Oh yeah, not, in that situation you see that's not a new thing. That's been in there for like 100 years in that situation.
Agreed.
Ultimately, it didn't work. Ground ball through the middle and game over. But yeah, very very frustrating. We both, like I said, we both got our predictions right, so there's a positive. That's about the only positive I can take. Colin Moran is still good. Osuna is still good, but he didn't play. And
Shelton refuses to play. It makes no sense to me.
it's like sometimes I wonder if he's like no better than Clint Hurdle, because remember how often Clint Hurdle would somehow justify putting Sean Rodriguez,
In
Mr.
the lineup, yep.
150 whatever batting average, in the lineup like every game because of
Yes.
his quote unquote hustle. Uh, I mean, it's it's kind of like that. Even with the Cole Tucker in center field, it's like the same argument.
See, it's also stupid, right? Because it's clear that the Pirates are tanking. It is clear that we already had the worst record in the league.
And
But the
here's my thing. If you're gonna do the tanking thing, you should probably be transparent about it, right? Because the Pirates aren't getting any new fans in this scenario. Like when the Astros were tanking in like the first half of the 2010s, they were really transparent about it. They made it clear to their fans that this was, a rebuild, that they were, they were grooming all the young guys to, prepare them for their primes. And the mid to late 2010s, of course, that was aided by other things that I don't want to rant about right now. Them, and as well as if you want to go into other sports, the Sixers, with the whole trust the process thing, they were very transparent about their intentions. But the Pirates insist. This was incredibly terrible the way Huntington handled it. But so far, Charrington and his crew haven't exactly proved much better. Um, they'll still come out and say we're trying to we're trying to contend, and we're trying to, or even worse than that was when Huntington would say we're projected for 80 wins. If we can go perform above that, then we'll make the playoffs. So it was essentially admitting that we have an 80-win team, and we're hoping, and if we overperform, then great. But if not, then well, you know,
not only that, um, remember his comment about like the simulations?
10,000 simulations, and only one had us losing this many games. Oh, that is just a facepalm moment. As like, I would have to imagine the PR guy had to have been rolling his eyes at that, because are you serious with that comment? Like, never paint excuses on yourself when you just suck.
Yeah, but the thing is, even with tanking, like baseball's so different because even first round draft picks are crapshoots.
Yeah, I mean, I
Like
think
you're not getting a Sidney Crosby or Ben Roethlisberger who you can implement immediately and change the franchise. You're A, waiting 5 years, maybe even longer, because as long as COVID-19 is a thing, minor league baseball isn't a thing.
Especially
That's
this
issue
year.
number one. So that's issue number one. And issue number two, man, baseball, I think more than any other sport, their first round draft picks, like I said, are crapshoots. They're just a legit guess. Yes, I agree. The majority of drafts are like that, but I think Major League Baseball drafts have a higher percentage of busting than the other sports.
Yeah, I think that you really need to have an elite level team of front office and minor league guys working to draft and develop the highest quality players and get the highest quality scouts to make proper evaluations of players. I'm just trying to paint this back to the aforementioned stuff that the Houston Astros did because um, obviously they cheated. I mean, let's be frank, they did. But they still had talented players as the result of a rebuild lasting multiple years. Like if you look at the 2015 Houston Astros, who by all accounts did not cheat yet, um, they were looking great. They were close. They were like one or two wins away from the World Series. I forget. Or no, they were a couple innings away from the ALCS. Then the Royals came back and beat them. But they were looking incredible, and it took them about probably 5 to 10 years to rebuild. But they were able to execute it well. But the point is, it took an incredible team of scouts, of coaches, of analysts, because they were basically Moneyball on steroids with the way that they found talent and developed talent. The Pirates, I don't think have that. Obviously, it's a new regime and you have to give it a chance, but I'm just I don't expect this new regime to have that same kind of approach that the Houston Astros did and be successful in that regard. If if, uh, if we have success again, it will be just like the 3-year window of 13 to 15 of simply a blind squirrel finding the net once every 20 years and somehow muddling a chord together by sheer coincidence.
Hmm.
End of rant.
And a friend. Just to kind of finish another discussion, it was Joey Cora. He was
Oh,
center
well,
run
okay. Thank
twice.
you. I did
Yep.
not. He must have been the only guy from the hurdle regime that stayed.
Yes, he was one of the few who did. Um, yeah, I think I agree. But is Bob Nutting really going to pay for those scouts to really develop those players, though?
Mm,
Like, I think that's even a question.
I mean,
Um, because they, because someone, I think it was maybe Andrew Filipponi, was talking about how you can't screw up Mitch Keller. This new regime can't screw up Mitch Keller because we screwed up Tyler Glasnow. We screwed up Charlie Morton. We screwed up another player who I forget, but was a pitcher, starting pitcher.
Kingham
Kingham, thank you. Where is he now?
in Korea.
Really?
Yeah, I think because I remember they were interviewing him on ESPN because Korean baseball was like the first sport in the history of the world to come back after all this, and he was talking about his experiences and whatnot.
Hmm. So Nick Kingdom's another guy they screwed up. Whether you can argue drafting them was a screw up or developing them was a screw up. Because right now, yes, the Pirates need just about everything at the moment. But you gotta start with pitching, and they need to develop Keller. They have to. They can't screw him up because the last regime, as stated earlier, was screwing everything up. With like developed pitching, like Cole, like he even talked about, didn't reach his full potential. Um,
Yeah.
you can't waste more young talent because then we're gonna be developing for flipping ever.
20 years, just like Cam Bonifay and Dave Littlefield before him.
Exactly, exactly, and no Pirate fan wants to sit another flipping 20 years so this team sucks again.
No, or even that. Like I said, something that always creeps the back of my mind is the fact that the lease to PNC Park expires in 2030, right? And if we continue to disappoint in the way we have, the future of this team in this city could very well be in jeopardy. That's not hyperbole.
We'll hope it doesn't get to that point, but at this
No,
point, who
we have
knows?
10 years to figure something out.
10 years to be functional. That's all we were after.
Yeah. Hopefully, yeah, I hope that our draft picks, are the four or the five pitchers, however many that we selected in the draft, almost exclusively pitchers that we selected, that we can work well with them. That will be the
Yes.
first test of the new regime. Will be the development of those guys. And unfortunately, like you said, unfortunately in baseball, development takes much more time. So it will be a good 3 to 5 years before we can even make our first evaluation on the state of the new regime in regards to developing talent, which is a bit frustrating, but what are you going to do? That's just the way the game works.
That's just how baseball is, man. You have to wait, which is so depressing as a Pirate fan, because now you know you're gonna suck for at least another 3 to 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah, crazy, crazy, man. But hey, baseball is a game of waiting. The game itself is a game of waiting. So, on a macro level, of course, it would make sense that development, player development, and stuff relating to that would also be a game of waiting.
Indeed.
Well, we're running quite a bit over time, but any final thoughts before we call this one a wrap?
No, I think I'm good.
Yes. So if you are listening to us on YouTube, remember to subscribe. It's Pittsburgh Sportscast. Just search it up in the search bar. Our channel will be the first one listed. Make sure to give us a subscribe. Like this podcast if you're on YouTube. Um, or if you're on any other podcasting platform, like, favorite, subscribe, do whatever. Make sure that you're the first to know about our new episodes. They're becoming a lot more regular now that sports are back.
Yes, they
So
are.
we're really excited. Also, we had about 17 viewers in like one day. So we like to thank you guys for the support that you've been giving us over the past few days. Really loving that. Really excited about that. Remember to interact with us on Twitter, PGH Sportscast, if you'd like to talk to us there. Email us your questions, comments, or concerns if you have any. Pittsburgh Sports Podcast at gmail.com if you want to drop us a line over there. But until then, I'm Ryan,
And I'm Chris.
and we will see you next time on the Pittsburgh Sports Cast. Let's hope for a win in game two. Stay safe, everybody.